Good Yantif, everybody. Welcome. There's a story about the Rizhiner Rebbe that he always had a hard time connecting to the mourning and to the sadness of the day of Tisha B'av. And his Talmidim and the Chevra and the people in the community, they kind of understood the assignment, and they would have these little pranks or little Mila D'Shtusa that they would add to the day. So in this particular year, they set up kind of like a fishing rod that came through the ceiling. They made a little hole in the ceiling, and they lowered a rod down that when somebody would walk in, they would grab them and lift them up and just bring some simcha to the day. And they were all excited, and they set it up, and they tried it out, and it worked. And in walks in their first person. And for those that were up on top of the roof, they weren't able to necessarily see who was walking in. And in walks a person, their first, person they're going to grab, and they lower it down. They're so excited. They start lifting him up, and they look down, and they realize that they caught the Rebbe himself. So they immediately dropped him. They run off to the forest, and they hope that they don't get caught. And then the Rebbe's sitting there on the floor, and, he looks up to Shemayim, and he says, Hashem, he said, look at your people. They don't even know how to observe this holiday. Just take it away from them. Enough. Bring the Geulah. Our tzaddikim teach us that as we go through the months of the year, there are certain aspects within ourselves that we can work on to improve, and we can tap into it on those specific months and those specific Yom Tovim. And when it comes to Tammuz and Av, we are taught that we can prepare ourselves and work on our eyes, to prepare our eyes for Geulah and to just train ourselves to only see the good within people. So where in essence we can have this ayin hara, where you see negative and you see bad within people, or you can choose to use your ayin tov to find the good in people. The Zohar compares the eyes of Bilam Harasha, who tried to curse the people, that he had the most horrible, Eini Ra'os, that he was able to burn somebody up just by looking at them. He actually used that ayin hara to try to curse the Jewish people. And on the flip side, we have the eyes of David HaMelech, the eyes that anybody who steered into the eyes of David HaMelech, they felt peace, they felt calm, they felt shalom, they felt oneness, they felt closer to Hashem just by gazing into the eyes of David HaMelech. What does this have to do with us as it comes to Tisha B'av? When Hashem created this world, he created a lot of different relationships. And one in particular is kind of like a business relationship, where somebody has something to bring to the table. Somebody has an idea. Somebody wants to build a company. And in their mind, they know what their capabilities are, but they're not tech savvy. They don't know, they're not proficient in Microsoft Excel. So they hire somebody, or they work with somebody as a business partner to help build out this project that they want to do. Now, the way that a business relationship works is that if the company is productive and profitable, then that will be a very strong relationship. You can think about people that you have relationships with that are business-like relationships. I bring one thing to the table, you bring another thing to the table. The more we work well together and the more productive our, business opportunity is, the better our relationship is. However, if that relationship, tanks, or if that business tanks and you file, bankruptcy, Chapter 11, and things start to fall apart, that relationship also will fizzle out because it was a business relationship. There's a deeper relationship than a business relationship, and that is a soulful relationship. I think about it sometimes. Imagine my household ran like a business, right? Whoever makes their beds gets lunch, right? Whoever takes out the garbage gets dinner, right? My family, I know some of them would produce, but if our household would run like a business, that would be something that fizzles out very quickly. But we learn that there's a much deeper relationship that happens in household, that happens in schools, that happens with teachers to students. And that's a soulful relationship. That's a relationship where you connect to your soul. It doesn't matter if the business is productive or not. It just matters that I continue my relationship with you. We learned this a little bit out through Hannah. Hannah was a Neviah. She was an Akara for many years. She davened specifically for this child. And then Eli comes to her and he says, listen, I could give you Shmuel and he's not going to live for very long. I have another soul. I have another neshama that can come here and he'll be even greater Navi and he'll do greater miracles and he'll do big things. If you want, we can swap this out. And Hannah looks at Eli and she says, are you crazy? She says, Es hanar hazeh palalti. I davened for this neshama. I have a relationship with this soul. This is the neshama that I want to bring to this world. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't live long or it messes up. It doesn't matter. Es hanar hazeh palalti. This is what I need. This is my relationship. What Bilam tried to do when he tried to curse the Jewish people, he tried to tell Hashem, listen, you had a great thing going with these people. It was great. It was good business. They were in Mitzrayim. You took them out. You saved them. You gave them the Torah. And then all of a sudden, the business starts to fail. They're, chote with the Egal, and they messed up with this, with Minyan, with this. They're over the Avodah Zarah. I'm telling you, Hashem, it's not worth it. This is not a good nation to go into business with. And he starts to bring all these karbanos, like he brings up 7 karbanos from other nations to show Hashem, look, you could have the whole world. You could have all these other nations. They will be so productive. They will bring so much to the table. And Hashem looks at Bilam and he says, you fool. He says, you Rasha. He says, that's not what I wanted. I chose this nation from the beginning. I have a soulful relationship with them. I don't care if they mess up in productivity. I don't care if it's not so profitable. I have a relationship with this person. I think about this all the time, like teachers, like when they're teaching a student, they have to think all the time, this neshama was given to me to teach. I don't care if he gets under a 90, he'll still get recess. It doesn't matter. Those things don't make a difference when it's a soulful relationship. And what we're trying to do during these months is we're trying to shift our minds from thinking our relationship with Hashem is not one of business. It's one of the souls. When the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, you can liken that to like a business absolutely failing. It was great. It was working well. They were bringing karbanos. Hashem was taking the karbanos. They were davening. They were singing. They were coming to the Beis HaMikdash. They were ola regel. But as soon as that Beis HaMikdash was burnt down and everything kind of like fizzled out, we could have just stopped right there. But what Hashem is teaching us is that it doesn't matter that you made those mistakes. Yes, the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed. Our business wasn't profitable. We didn't make so much money this year. But you know what? It doesn't matter. I have a relationship with you and I chose you no matter what. And it gives us so much chizuk as Yidden. Like, as we make mistakes, we have to say, 1 second, Hashem is not crunching the numbers. Somebody else is proficient in Microsoft Excel. But Hashem just wants us. And that gives us so much chizuk. It uplifts us. Every single year in Rosh Hashanah, yes, the Beis HaMikdash is still not standing, but we can be the ones to bring it. We can find that ayin tov. And we shift from that ayin hara of Bilam that was just looking for the negative. Nah, they didn't make money. They weren't profitable. They couldn't do it. They were chote. They were machti. They did all these wrong things. That's what Bilam was bringing to the table. And Hashem said, no, that ayin hara, no, shift it to the ayin tov. Bring that ayin tov. Bring the eyes of David HaMelech. And it's not a coincidence that Mashiach is actually born on Tisha B'av. On the day that we think, oh, our business failed. No, that's the day that Mashiach, the neshama of Mashiach, is here and comes to the world and shines its ayin tov. There's a big tzaddik that was known for his eyes to be able to see the good in every single year, no matter what was going on. And that's Reb Levi Yitzchak MiBarditchev. And the Barditchever was very, very famous. There's a lot of stories about him, even seeing Yidden in the trenches, like doing the wrong things, but he always was able to put a positive twist, to find an ayin tov within them. And there was this story that he would go visit the cholim all the time in his community. Every day he would go, he would bring them muffins and iced coffees, and he would cheer them up and bring them get well cards and balloons. And he would bring simcha to these people who were very, very sick. And there was this one Yid who was very, very sick, and he was on his deathbed, and he made his way to his house, and he was sitting there, and he saw he was tortured. He saw that he was in pain, and he wanted to help him. And he said, what's bothering? What's going on? And he held onto his hand, and he looked at him and he said, Rebbe, listen, I'm about to go up to heaven. I don't know what's going to be when I get there. I made so many mistakes in my life. I was wrongdoings after wrongdoings. And I don't know, I'm petrified. I'm so scared to go up. And Reb Levi Yitzchak was holding his hands, and he said, don't worry. He said, when you get to Shemayim, when you get there, just tell them that whatever is my Olam Haba, I'm giving it to you. You can have it. When you get to the next world, you got it. And with that, he smiled, and he held on to his hand for a few minutes longer, and then he passed away. And the people in the room were looking, and they're like, Reb Levi Yitzchak, I think you went a little too far this time. Like, yes, you visit them and you bring them gifts and you wish well and you daven for them, but like, you just gave up your Olam Haba? And he looked at the Yidden and he looked around the room and he said, what do you mean? He said, a few minutes, he's my Olam Haba for a few minutes of giving this Yid comfort and peace and telling him it's going to be okay. There's nothing more that I'd rather do. He just constantly kept finding the good in people and using his ayin tov to focus in on that person and say, that person's a neshama. He's going to be okay. I'm going to comfort that neshama, and I'm going to bring simcha and joy and nechama to all the neshamas that are suffering within Geulah. So let this be the last Tisha B'av in Geulah. Let this time period turn into a time period of ayin tov, and stop focusing on the ayin ra. Harness during these months of Av, and specifically during this day of Tisha B'av, harness that ayin tov and continue to use it for the good till we eventually bring and see Mashiach.